Today we are going to be solving multi-step inequalities. So a review on how to solve a multi-step equation, the first thing you need to do is get rid of your parentheses. So you're going to distribute. The second thing you're going to do is combine any like terms. So your goal is to get all the terms combined on one side. Then you're going to add or subtract the constant. Your constant, remember, is your loose number. And then multiply or divide by the coefficient. We haven't used the term coefficient before, but the coefficient is a number that is attached to the variable. So these steps here is the reverse of PEMDAS that you need to think about except for the whole parentheses. Okay, let's look at some examples. So we're going to solve the inequalities and then graph it. So the first one, negative 3x plus 2x less than or equal to 6. We do not have parentheses, but we need to combine our like terms. So we have two x's here. So negative 3 plus 2 gives us negative 1. And we rewrite everything as it is. Now we need to get x by itself. We have a number attached to it by multiplication, so we do the opposite and divide by negative 1. So it cancels out. So we have x. When we divide by a negative, our sign flips. 6 divided by negative 1 is negative 6. Now we need to graph this. So we go down to negative 6, and it is a closed circle. And we are graphing to the right. Number 2. We do not have parentheses, so we go to combining like terms. So we have a 3 and a negative 4. So 3 minus 4 is negative 1 minus 6n is less than 17. So everything else stays the same. Now, do we have a loose number over here that we need to move to the other side to get n by itself? We do. We have a negative 1. So opposite, we're going to add 1 to both sides. Negative 6n is less than 17 plus 1 gives us 18. And then we have negative 6n. This here is multiplication. We have to do the opposite, so divide by negative 6. Cancels out. So n, we divide by a negative, so our sign flips. So 18 divided by negative 6 is negative 3. So let's put a little note. So if we divide or multiply by a negative, flip the sign. So now let's graph it. So we go to negative 3, and it's an open circle, and we're graphing to the right. Okay, let's look at number 3. So there's no parentheses, so we have to combine our like terms. We have negative 3 plus 4. Negative 3 plus 4 gives us a positive 1. So we get n plus 1 is greater than 7. Do we have any numbers that we need to move to the other side to get n by itself? We do. We have a plus 1. That's our loose number, so we have to get rid of it. So we're going to subtract 1 on both sides. So n is greater than 7 minus 1 is 6. So we go down to 6 and it's an open circle. And we're graphing to the right. Again, we're graphing to the right because our inequality symbol is pointing to the right. Okay, number 4. There's no parentheses, so combine your like terms. -1 plus 5 plus 6 gives us positive 5. Rewrite everything else as it is. So now we need n by itself. So we're going to subtract 5 from both sides. Get rid of that loose number. So n, rewrite everything else, and then -5. Here we need to remember that order matters. So we need to rewrite this as n and -5. So n has to be on the left-hand side for us to graph it. Our inequality symbol, you think of Pac-Man's mouth is eating n, so it still has to eat n. So that inequality is just going to flip. So now we can graph this inequality. So we go down to -5, which is right here, and it's an open circle, and it is pointing again to the right. Okay, let's look at number 5. Number 5, we have parentheses, so we have to get rid of those parentheses. To do that, we're going to distribute. So we're going to take our 8 and multiply it to everything on the inside here. So 8 times 1 is 8. 8 times -4 is -32, but it's an x, so -32x. Then we write everything else as it is. So all that did was get rid of that parentheses for us. Now, we need to combine like terms. Do we have any like terms over here that we can combine? We do not. So then we need to get rid of our loose number here. This 8 here is positive, so we have to do the opposite and subtract. So we get -32. X is greater than 40 minus 8 gives us 32. Then we have to get x by itself, and it's attached to -32 by multiplication. So we have to divide to undo it. And when we divide by a negative, our sign flips. And 32 divided by -32 is -1. So we go to -1, and it's an open circle, and we are going to the left. The last problem we're going to look at is number 6. We have parentheses. We have to get rid of the parentheses. So this negative, we want to think of as -1. Oops. Let's redo that. So we want to think of this as -1. So we're going to multiply -1 to everything in the inside of that parentheses, and only the parentheses. We are not going to touch this -2. So -1 times 2 is -2. -1 times 2m is -2m. So all that did was change the signs of the inside of the parentheses. Rewrite everything else as is. Now combine your like terms. We have -2 minus 2. That's -4. You write everything else as is. You have a loose number of -4, so we're going to add 4 to both sides. Bring down -2m is greater than 6 plus 4 is 10. Divide by -2. If we divide by negative, our sign flips. 10 divided by -2 is -5. So we go down to -5, an open circle, and it's pointing to the left. And that is it, guys.